All right, I am live. That's what it's telling me. Happy Monday. Happy Motivational Monday, everyone. How was your Thanksgiving? How was your week after Thanksgiving? Are you back in the swing of things? How are you getting ready for the coming year? How's it going? So I'd love to hear. You can just, when you join, even if you're watching this a year from now, put it in the comments. I'll see the comments and I respond to the comments. So yes, always interested to hear from people. So feel free to comment, even if you're watching this video in the future. So yes, let's get right into it. So this is actually part 2. When I recorded part 1 and did that live, it was the week before Thanksgiving, and I didn't intend to do a series. I was just talking on happiness because it's something that at this time of year with the holiday season, a lot of people are unhappy for all sorts of different reasons. And a lot of people actually fall into depression. And this can be a really awkward and hard and painful time for people. Like I said, for all different reasons. So I wanted to focus on happiness because it's something that even in general, people on a day-to-day basis tend to seek, and it is kind of elusive. They kind of can't find it or figure out how to be happy. But then I started thinking, actually, as I was doing the live, well, people want other things than happiness. There's several things that people seek in life, right? They want these things out of life and they don't know how to get them, or they think they know how to get them, but they're not quite sure how to go about it, and they're doing it maybe the wrong way. And as a Christian confidence coach, why not help people get back on track, especially since this is the end of the year? Now, this How to Get What You Want series, there's going to be a few more, but let me tell you right up front, this is not manipulation. So when I say how to get what you want, it might not be exactly how you picture it. It might look differently, but I'll tell you, it's possible. You just might have to shift some things in your perspective around in your mindset. So stick with me. So I'm going to give you a quick story. So the reason why I didn't do a live last week is because I was in Miami on a photo shoot for a client, which is so much fun. Who goes to Florida, though, and doesn't go to the beach, right? Especially if you're from the north and it's November, December, and it's cold, right? No longer beach weather up here. So, of course, you're going to want to go to the beach. But guess what? I didn't make it to the beach. I was busy. I was taking photos of people. And so I had driven down. And so on my way back, I said, I'm going to stop off in St. Augustine because I'd always heard that it was a pretty city and I was curious about it. And then I did a little bit of reading and it made the beaches sound real nice, right? It sounded really pretty. So I decided I wanted to go to the beach as I was leaving Florida. This is what I wanted. I had this picture in my mind that I was going to go to the beach and it was going to be beautiful white sand, just like the article told me. Florida's the sunshine state, right? It was going to be a beautiful sunny day. I'd had gorgeous weather. Let me tell you, it was like a gorgeous trip. And so as I'm driving out of Miami, it's about maybe 3.5 hours away, 3 hours north of Miami. Sunny. It's perfect. I'm like, yes, I'm going to get my beach day. I'm going to spend like an hour on the beach relaxing. Then I'm going to go see some sights and like continue on my drive. Well, get off the exit for St. Augustine. It's like, what's this in the distance? Clouds. Huh. They're not the white puffy kind. They're the gray fluffy kind. These aren't looking good. By the time I got to the beach, found some place to park because I'd never been there before. So I was like, where's the parking? It was a little weird to find parking. Found parking. There was no more sun. It was cloudy. It had gotten super windy. And I get out of my car and I'm like, I don't think this is going to be a good idea. I'm clearly not going to get my beach time. And I said, no, I want to see the beach. I'm going to do this. So by the time I get to the beach, it's now raining. Not heavy. It was like a light rain. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do 60 seconds on the beach and I'm going to record it. I'm going to dance on the beach because what else is there to do in the rain, right? And let me, use Fred Astaire and his little rain dance, right? Okay, he was on the street. I was on the beach, whatever. I'm going to use it and I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to get my beach day for 60 seconds. Let me tell you, it was not how I imagined it would be. It's not exactly what I wanted, but guess what? I still had fun. I was literally blowing around. A part of me was like, I don't know. I don't really live in this area. I don't know what storms in the beach could become like. Maybe there'll be thunder. Maybe there'll be lightning. Maybe this is going to get like so windy that it'll be like really dangerous. I mean, I knew it wasn't a hurricane, but the wind was really strong. So I was like, is this even safe for me to be here? So I didn't stay long. Like I said, I did get what I wanted, but I didn't get it exactly the way I wanted. And so that's my point. I had to make the best of it. I had to adjust. I had to just kind of go with it. And that's okay. It's okay if life doesn't go exactly as planned, because sometimes our plans aren't really that great anyway. I mean, I thought my plan was great, right? But guess what? I was thinking about it. I've gone to the beach before on sunny days. In fact, that's the only time I really choose to go to the beach. I've never been on the beach in the rain, got soaking wet, recorded myself dancing. I've never done that before. It was an adventure. So maybe in the end, it was better, right? Than how I imagined it would be. So here is the thing: how to get what you want. Part 2. Part 1 was on happiness. Part 2 is on freedom. So I have some notes and I am going to share them with you. Now, a lot of times we think freedom means doing whatever it is that we want, right? Well, maybe not. So I am a Christian confidence coach. So I'm going to base it around this verse of 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12, which says, I have the right to do anything. So he's like quoting. So he's been told, people are like, oh, well, you have the right to do anything. So he's like, you have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. Sorry, I can't read my notes. This is not the first time this has happened. I make these notes and I write so fast. If I have the right to do everything, but I will not be mastered by anything. So that has to do with things that we sometimes want to do becoming our masters. We end up, there's this proverb that says the borrower is servant to the lender. So this is kind of a financial principle, but it applies to anything. So if I am always trying to do whatever it is, and I'm always borrowing things, like say, for example, and I will be honest, because this has been a hard year. It's my first year as an entrepreneur, and there have been things I've had to buy on a credit card, and it, is not really good for my credit card balance. But if I just do that all the time, right? All of a sudden, what is owning me? Debt is owning me. If I went out, I want a new couch. Let me tell you, I want a new couch so badly. Why? Because I want to use a new couch for photo shoots for clients. It's a terrible idea to get a couch right now. I don't have a new couch, right? Because while I can do anything I want, it's not always beneficial for me to do anything that I want. I could end up becoming serving whatever that thing is. It's the same thing even for relationships. I can date whoever I want. I can have sex with whoever I want. But I could end up pregnant with someone that I don't know, with someone I don't want to have a baby with someone who I mean, this is just like an example, right? This could be anything. Like with someone who's an abuser. And now all of a sudden, my freedom, my sexual freedom is putting me in bondage. And now I am having things that I have to manage that I really might not want to manage. Or just even, marriage, right? Or dating someone. It starts out good. I can tell you this from experience, right? It starts out good, but then there are things that happen and you get into the relationship and you're like, oh, I'm getting a lot more than I bargained for from this man, or if you're a man, from this woman. This isn't what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for this. And you now are like servant to like your mistakes. This is actually how I ended up becoming a Christian confidence coach, because I was like, you know what? I'm working all the time. I'm stressed. I need to release. I need to have some fun. And I didn't choose to hang out with my friends. I decided I would have this adventure with someone who I thought would be okay to date, and ended up being a huge life lesson, mistake, right? And I had to live with that, right? And I had to heal from that. I really had to heal from that, because it ended that situation. And not everything ends up in a dire circumstance, obviously. So I'm not trying to say everything that you do, like there's a bad consequence. It's not, I'm not trying to like fear people into doing certain things. But, that relationship or situationship, when I ended it, it then ended up happening that he raped me to get control. It was all about control. It was not about me, right? But that affected how I saw myself going into meeting new people, right? And so I became a servant to my emotions, to my pain. And yeah, it was ugly. So here's the thing. How do we get freedom, right? This is what we maybe want to avoid, to not get freedom, while we have the freedom to do anything and everything. There's always a choice, and there's always a consequence. I left my job last year. I was a teacher. I left my job. I didn't like certain things about what my employer was requiring from me. And so I left. There was, a result of that. I found myself having to figure out how I was going to support myself full-time as an entrepreneur as a result of that choice, right? It's given me a lot of freedom, but there's always a trade-off. I went from a steady paycheck to I don't know when I'm going to get paid this week or next month, So there's always this trade-off in what we choose for freedom. So how to go about getting freedom? Here's what you can do. All right. You can look over your values and your beliefs. I would say list them out. What are your values? What are your beliefs? Now, here's the thing, though. Your values are kind of more open, and your belief system most likely is closed, because sometimes we believe the wrong things. Yes. We should always find out why and ask ourselves, why do I believe this? And even for our values, why do I value this? But values are a little bit more open. So, for example, if you value integrity, then you know that you want to do things in your life and get freedom in your life by being honest with yourself, right? Keeping your word to other people, right? Your belief system can be closed. So, for example, the Jewish people did not recognize Jesus as the King of Kings. If someone is watching this in the future who's Jewish, this may be offensive, but anyway, that's not my problem. So they had this belief that the Messiah would look a certain way, that he would be the King of Kings, he would come in and he would rescue them because they were being oppressed by the Roman Empire, right? So they thought that when the Messiah came, he would just be like this big, all-powerful, probably charismatic person who would just like overthrow the Roman Empire and bring them into a happy place. But that's not what he was about, and that wasn't his point. His point was about freedom from sin, freedom for us to just live, freedom for us to have a relationship with God. And because they had this belief system about what the Messiah should look like, they missed it. So a lot of times our belief systems are keeping us from being free. So you want to look through, if you want to list out your beliefs. What do I believe? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about my finances? What do I believe about finding a new partner if you've broken up with someone? A lot of people will say, oh, there's no good men out there, or there's no good women out there. Well, why do you believe that? Is that true? And if that's the case, why do you believe that? Like, what's going on? Where is really the proof? Is this really true? Or is it just that the places that you are hanging out and meeting people are not the best places for you to meet a good man or a good woman, right? So looking at our belief system, that is going to be key for finding freedom, because then we can figure out what it is that we're believing that's not true and where things are true. And then our values, right? That's a little bit more open. We want to live in accordance, in alignment with our values, because if we are valuing one thing or saying we value one thing, but doing the opposite, we're putting ourselves in this back and forth. We're creating confusion and chaos in our lives because our heart is in one place and our thoughts are in a different place and our actions in another further place. And it's just all over the place. So values. Are you living in your values? Are you, doing your best to do that? And it's not easy. A lot of times people are like, oh, my authentic self, be authentic. It's a super popular word right now. But what does that really mean? Authentic means that you're being you, right? That you're being real. But sometimes people are, pretending. And when you're pretending, even then you are in this conflict. So you're pretending to be authentic. And so until you sit down and like really sort things out, list out what your values are, list out your beliefs, question yourself on these things. Where are my belief systems holding me back? Where am I out of alignment with my values? Am I really being authentic like I value? Am I really being a loving person like I value? Am I really having integrity like I value? Like, really asking ourselves the hard questions. We all have to do this. So, that's what I wanted to share on that. Now, there was one other thing that I wanted to share on freedom, and it's from First Peter chapter 2, verse 16. So live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a, oh goodness, I can't read my writing again. Yep, I'm going to do better with my notes next week. It's like not using your freedom as a way to go about doing evil, but living as servants of God. And then he goes on to talk about honoring everyone, including leaders. Like he says, even honor the emperor. And that can be like a really hard pill to swallow. When I was reading that, for example, it says, live as people who are free. So that again goes with our mindsets, right? Not about when I am free to do X, Y, or Z, when I am free to have X, Y, or Z, but living actually like you are free, believing and trusting that you are free. And then using that freedom to do good things, not evil things. And part of that freedom, in order to maintain it, requires us to honor other people. And he uses the word emperor because at that time that it was written, there was like the Roman emperor. We don't have an emperor. We have presidents and senators and all sorts of people, mayors, representatives, different people who are leaders. And sometimes they're really hard to honor, right? That was like, when I was reading, I was like, oh, really? But then I started thinking about it, and he's got a point, because first I looked up honor. So what are some synonyms for honor? Honor says respect, distinction, integrity, to serve, to value, and to appreciate. I said respect. So I was like, yeah, but some of these leaders or some of these people, they're not really honorable because they don't have integrity and they're not really serving the people that they're representing. So how is that going to work? Then I started thinking about Daniel. So I read Daniel about a month ago, I think it was now. It's a little bit ago. And I started thinking about Daniel and honor. And it's also something that I think a lot of times women have a hard time with in marriage, because you're supposed to honor and submit to your husband. And that can be like, also as a woman, right? For freedom, you're like, how can I have freedom and honor someone? Well, you still want to keep your own individuality, right? And honor, it does say respect, distinction, service, valuing, or appreciating someone, but it doesn't say that you have to be at their beck and call. And it's not talking about like, well, you just throw your own values and you're, out the window, right? Because I started thinking about Daniel. So he was like in a really interesting position, right? It starts off in the book, and he's kind of like in this internship position. And he and some other young men or younger men who are also of Jewish faith, they don't want to eat the diet, the food that the king is telling them to eat. Now, what happens? Well, Daniel does say, look, I don't want to eat this, but he doesn't do it in a rude way. He's not like, get this plate of food off of here. I don't want this. this is garbage. I have this certain diet that my God is leading me to eat, and that's what I want to eat. No, he's basically like, let's just try this little experiment. Let us do our thing. Let us eat our food for this. I forget how many days it was, this certain amount of days. And let's just see how it works out. He honored it. He was respectful. He still, it kind of gives the impression that he may have, shown appreciation for what was being offered him. um and and he continued to serve and to do his job, right, even though he was not in agreement with this diet. And guess what, in the end, after honoring, being an honorable man, he won. He the man who was like overseeing him in his internship, right, let him try out his diet of like vegetables and different things for like, it was like 10 days or something, realized that he was thriving, realizing that he and his friends were excelling above the other men who were going through the same training that they were. They were like at the top of their class. So guess what? In the end, they got the freedom to continue on with eating in the way that they wanted to eat. And they didn't have to, be like forced into a situation where they were having to eat a diet that they didn't want to eat, right? But he did it honorably. And so he got his freedom. So even though there are things that like maybe happening in our country or happening in our families or happening in our communities, or even if we're in a relationship with someone, like a marriage, and that person is, we're not like fully in agreement, by honoring someone, by still showing them the respect and still serving them and just going about it in a pleasant way, there's freedom that can be found in that. You can still get your freedom. And it's not like in a manipulative way. It's just like in an honest, straightforward, like calm way. And so I think a lot of times, and this is like something that I've struggled with, to get my freedom, right? I want to fight. Like I want to fight, and I want to sometimes like be violent about it. Let me curse you out so I can just put you in your place and tell you where to go. It can get, I can get kind of spicy. It doesn't really get me the freedom that I think I want, because then what do I end up in? Now I've ended up by being spicy, causing a problem with someone. So now I've got a relationship issue that I have to fix. I've probably said things that I regret. So I'm not happy with myself either. And it's just, I've created more problems, right, in general. So I really haven't gotten myself the freedom that I want to get. So, yes, check out again for yourself, read it, study it for yourself. But 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 16, where it says, live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a way for evil, but living as servants of God, and then honoring others. And that by others is everyone. And that can get you and keep you freedom. And I was thinking, but I think that verse never stood out to me before, but having recently read Daniel and thinking about him and how he navigated some really interesting situations, right? He ends up in a lion's den. He ends up with these lions, right? But as a result, afterwards, guess what? He wasn't disrespectful. He still honored the king. He wasn't like, it doesn't sound like, I wasn't there, but it doesn't sound like from the scripture that he was like cursing the king out and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're going to put me in these lions. I curse you to this. Like, he wasn't doing any of that. It sounds like he was just like, all right, well, if so be it. But he got his freedom. In the end, he still was able to, God saved him, shut the lions' mouths. And when he was released, he got the freedom of continuing to practice his faith. So honoring others, it sounds like it doesn't make sense. It sounds like it would get you the opposite. It sounds like it would put you in bondage to them. But sometimes by serving others and just kind of going about it and being peaceful in a way, you can get your freedom. And I think when I think back on like Gandhi, even Martin Luther King Jr., they had a way of doing things to get freedom as well that were it was done with like a love, with a service, but I'm not going to take this from you. Like Gandhi, right? He was like, we're not doing this anymore, England. We're done. We're breaking up. This relationship is over. You can go back to your island and we'll keep our country for ourselves, right? That's how that went. But so even though he had firm boundaries, right? There was still like an honor he did about it. It went about it, and there was still some sort of like respect. And it's just interesting. And in the end, it did work. It did work. He helped his country gain freedom. So I think that these are some things that we can think about. It's definitely things that I want to think about some more on how to get what you want when it comes to having freedom. So I hope this helps. As I'm talking, I'm honestly still sorting this out through, my thought process as well. So I've definitely found myself today as I was prepping for this, thinking about freedom in new ways. And I was thinking about it also in personally, the place where I have found the most freedom is in forgiveness. And that I should not overlook because a lot of us are, and this was me, and this is why I did a whole journal on it. I feel like books, like a whole library, could probably be written on the topic of forgiveness. It's really that deep. But it says, I wrote this down. Okay. Let no debt remain outstanding except for the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Romans 13, is that? I really can't read my writing today. I wrote it in marker. It's a little chunky. This is why. Verse 8. So anyway, we have to forgive others. And when someone hurts us, right? People who have hurt me, they owed me. They did. And anyone who's ever hurt you, right? They owe you. What they did is not right. It's never right, right? So do I want to carry that though? Do I want to be going around and enforcing someone to pay their debt to me? And some things can't ever even be repaid, right? Some things hurt us so bad, there's no way it can be made up for. Like nothing can really make up for it. And do I want to carry that with me? Or do I want to just say, you know what? You don't owe me anything. And when I chose to say, you know what? You don't owe me anything, I felt freedom. It was like enormous freedom because it was weighing me down and it was creating a lot of really dark things. I keep talking about, I have a book that I've written. It just needs to be like edited and stuff. And so I have something that I will eventually be putting out. But it was like very, very dark, very demonic, to be honest. Awful, right? And that was because I was choosing to hold on and not forgive someone who had hurt me. And so also it says in Psalm 66, verse 18, if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. And we're commanded to forgive. So if God forgave me, he expects me to forgive others. It's an expectation. It's not a suggestion. This is how it's going to be. All right. He makes the rules. He's God. That's it. I don't know what else to tell you. So if we don't do this, we block ourselves, right? Because it says, if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. And so unforgiveness, when we are choosing to, I'm not talking about someone who's struggling to forgive and it's you and you want to forgive someone who hurt you and you're trying and you're doing your best and like you're releasing it and then you're feeling better, but then something happens like in a week and now you find yourself angry, but then you're trying to release it. I'm not talking about you trying to work through the pain and release it. I'm talking about you really holding on to it and you're saying, I don't want to forgive. I'm not interested in forgiving. They don't deserve my forgiveness. What they took from me can never be given back, which is true, all of these things. But the fact remains is God doesn't hear us. And a lot of times our freedom is linked to our prayers being answered because we're like, God, I could use a new job. God, I could use, my child is sick. I could use you healing my baby. But it's not heard. And so if we're not forgiving someone and we're choosing not to forgive someone, then the seriousness of it is that God doesn't hear our prayers. And that if we're praying, and especially fasting, we actually can do severe damage to ourselves spiritually and like bring worse things into our life than if, I'm telling you this from experience, right? Than if we just forgive. So, it also says, and this is similar to what I was sharing earlier in Galatians 5, verse 13. Yes, verse 13. For you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another. So part of our freedom is serving and loving one another versus like holding on to the grudge, holding on to things that are going to like weigh us down. There's good vibes, bad vibes, to put it in kind of like a popular way of saying it. And when we're holding on to unforgiveness, we're holding on to bad vibes. And who wants that, right? Who wants that? Do you want that? How bad do you want your life to continue to go badly? I'm guessing you don't. I'm guessing you badly want your life to go well. Who doesn't, right? So we have to forgive. And I do have a 20-day forgiveness journal. It is literally written from everything that I've learned on my own forgiveness struggles. I'm going to put the link in it in the comments below this video when I am done with this live so that you can get a copy. It's definitely when we're going into 2023. Do you want to go into this new year still weighed down, or do you want to go into this new coming year that's happening in a couple weeks free, light? The best way to do that: forgive, love, serve, honor. These things are kind of hard to do. That's why the journal is something that I put together, because I know it is hard. And sometimes you really don't know how to do it. Sometimes it's not just forgive and forget. Maybe you forgive and forget someone who bumped into you by accident on the subway. That's easy to forgive, but every day something's going to happen that's going to offend you, either severely or just slightly. So, honestly, I think that forgiveness is a lifestyle. If we want to have a lifestyle of freedom, right? We have to have a lifestyle of forgiveness. And forgiveness it involves love, it involves service, it involves honor. That even includes forgiveness of ourselves. Sometimes we don't honor ourselves. Sometimes we honor everyone else and we're not honoring ourselves. I was talking to someone the other week. Was it last week or the week before? I think the week before. So he said, this is just an example of like, how do we honor? How do we serve others versus ourselves? And are we free? So he said he eats his dinner. He like gets this like canned ravioli or whatever. He has it and he eats it right out of the can, or he'll eat it right out of the pot. And I said, "What?" And I asked him, I said, "Would you serve your mother food in a can or food in a pot?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, it's my mother. She doesn't get that. She deserves." Oh, wait, your mom doesn't get the food out of the can. She doesn't get the food out of the pot. She deserves more, you're saying? So why does your mother deserve more? Why are you honoring your mother, but you're not honoring yourself? So sometimes we put ourselves even in positions where we're not really with our mindset free, just by how we're treating ourselves. And so I'm not saying that you have to be eating off of fine china every night with polished silver or gold. No one's and crystal goblets. No one's saying that. But what I'm saying is sometimes we even put ourselves in our own kind of like confined spaces, so to speak, because we're not even taking care of ourselves. We're taking care of others. We're honoring others. We're showing others love. Maybe we're forgiving others. We're not forgiving ourselves. We're not loving ourselves. We're not serving ourselves. And I'm not talking about service in a selfish way, but we're not serving ourselves like we're serving others. So we want it to be balanced, right? Freedom has, again, we have the right to do anything and everything we want, but not everything is beneficial to us. And sometimes our habits, even of how we treat ourselves, he's free. This example I'm giving is this man is free to eat his dinner every night out of a tin can if he wants. Is it beneficial to him? Is it beneficial to his mental health? I would disagree. He probably would disagree with me because he definitely pushed back. But yes. So think about these things. These are some things to think about in terms of how to get freedom, which is something we all want. So if you would like more support with the forgiveness or to order your copy of the forgiveness journal, you can get that. I'm going to put in the link below. You can also email me. I'm happy to support you in any other way that I can. Just reach out to me. Let me know if you have any questions and how else you would like me to help you. And maybe there's a topic that you're curious even about, and you're like, Beth, I would like you to, share some thoughts or some insights on whatever topic. So you can even reach out to me about that. All right. So that's it for this Monday night. I will be back next week, hopefully, on another topic for how to get what you want. That will be part 3. All right. So until then, have a wonderful evening and peace.